Christina Way is suing her former friend, Ronald Matt Carroll, for injuries to her 6-year-old daughter, Tiffany, resulting from a go-kart crash.
Now, this is case number 70 on the calendar in the matter of Way versus Carroll. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Miss Way, it is your claim that Mr. Carroll was using one of those bumper cars.
A go-kart.
Go-kart. At a...
Amusement facility.
And you were not present.
No, I wasn't.
But your daughter was present.
My daughter was present.
Your daughter was there with a friend?
With my sister-in-law, her aunt.
And it is your claim that Mr. Carroll bumped into her and that he injured her.
Correct.
And you want him to compensate you. Mr. Carroll says he absolutely did not do that.
Correct.
Okay, so why don't you step up because you're the only one who was there. Tell me your name.
Rhonda Way.
All right, Miss Way. You took your niece to the amusement park?
Yes, I did.
And these go-karts are in a confined area?
Yes, they are.
Really, we used to call them bumper cars. Is that what they are?
They
have...
No, they're driving go-karts. They're not
It's
bumper
like on a
cars.
racetrack, a go-kart.
Like a track, yeah.
Gas-powered.
Do they have things around the cars so that they sort of cushion the blow?
No.
Yes. Yes. They have a steel framework around them.
Steel frame? No. What about rubber?
No.
No, it's not one of those ones that would be in the, like a confined ring that bump each
Right.
other with the thing that drives it around.
Right.
No, they're free driving vehicles.
And everybody goes very fast?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a race.
Yes.
It's a race.
How old is your daughter?
She's 6.
Not too smart to put her on that kind of a ride.
Your Honor, she was the passenger in the seat with me.
I don't care whether she's a passenger in the seat or driving. It's not too smart to take her in one of these cars. There are rides specifically set up for little children. So I wouldn't take mine in one of those cars. I don't know whether you would have taken your
I
daughter.
probably wouldn't have, no.
No, because it's just not smart. Do they wear helmets?
No.
No.
And these are open cars.
No.
No.
There's a roof that comes over the top, and they latch it in, and you're seat belted in.
Didn't prevent her from becoming injured.
No, it didn't.
That's why you don't take her. All right, so you exercised poor judgment in taking her as a passenger in this car. Tell me what happened.
Her and I get in the car together, and Mr. Carroll and his son get in.
You knew each other.
Yes, we do. He's my husband's best friend.
Go ahead.
They get in the car behind us, and we start the race, and about, I'd say, a couple laps into it, all the cars get stopped completely, and it's apparently due to the fact that he was spun out on the track. So they had to restart the whole race. Come time for the end of the race, we go into the dock, and we're waiting to be let out of the vehicles. You have to wait for all of them to get in for safety reasons and be parked completely at a stop before they'll let you out. And we're stopped, and he comes in behind us and hits us, and that's the point of the injury.
Okay. You were facing forward, so how did you know it was his car that hit you?
I turned around and saw that it was him, because I immediately thought to myself that that wasn't correct, that happened. It says on the steering wheel, no bumping.
Okay. Did you say anything to Mr. Carroll?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to him?
I told him that I thought after we got out of the vehicle, I thought that he was a jerk for doing what he did.
And what did he say?
He just laughed, and we bantered back and forth because we were
Well, I
racing
want to hear
each
what the
other.
banter was.
He was upset because he said this little kid spun him out on the track previously, and he was trying to catch up with us. He was just upset about the fact that...
No, don't tell me what you think. Tell me what he said to you, Miss Way. I only want to know what he said to you.
He just...
If you don't remember, you can tell me I don't remember what he said. But you had a conversation with
Yes,
him.
we did.
I think it was more of just a bantering back and forth.
It was.
I don't know what bantering means. I want to know what was said.
I won. No, you didn't.
No,
know.
you weren't there.
No, I wasn't. I was just giving you an
Fine.
example of what bantering would mean to me.
Okay, Mr. Carroll, let me hear your version of the events, sir.
Mine's a lot clearer than that. I was in the back of the race most of the time, so I said I seen everything that went on during the whole race. There was 2 times there was stoppage completely on the track, and the first one was from the wreck that they were in. I'm assuming. I couldn't honestly tell you for sure if
Then
that
don't,
was their car.
They
then
weren't
don't
in a
tell me
wreck.
anything.
Okay, but there was a wreck. There was a pilot in front of us, and their car was the one that was ahead of us. And I was almost for sure it was them because I was trying to catch them. We were in a race. And the little kid who was behind me, as I was coming around the corner, he spun me out.
How did he spin you out?
He caught me behind my left tire and between the wall as I was coming around the corner. And it was a pretty good move, actually. And he spun us out. He spun us out, and when he did, he went past, and that's when I seen go into the pileup. And I can't honestly say who was all in the pileup. I wouldn't really pay that close
I'm not
attention.
interested in the pileup. They were
Well, that's
stopped
when I
at the
think the
finish
injury
line.
occurred if there was one.
Just a second.
Okay.
I just want you to tell me your version of the race. Okay, there was a pileup.
Right.
You thought it was hurt, but I want to get to the finish line.
All right. Then we continued the race. They started everybody up, and I was trying to catch up with them again. At that point, I was pretty much last. And we was coming around to it was like the third turn from the end. And this little kid got me again. He spun me out exactly the same way. And that stalled out my go-kart then and his. And everybody else continued on and finished up the race, pulled in. Well, the guy had to run out there and restart my go-kart and the kids and turn us around, and we came in. And as we pulled in, we seen them standing on the side. They were standing on the side. I stopped a foot behind the go-kart. I mean, not only did I not hit them in the back, nobody did because I pulled up behind that go-kart.
Okay. Now, Miss Way, how many times were you involved in a pileup?
None.
You mean during the course of the race you had no contact with any other car?
If we bumped to the side during passing, maybe once or twice. Maybe
well,
once
that's
or,
what I'm asking
but not
you.
a pileup.
How many times did you have contact with another car?
During the race or after? Because after the
Both.
race, okay, I would say 4.
And when you have contact going at what speed?
I'm not sure how fast the vehicle goes, but I had it floored.
So fast.
Yes,
Certainly faster than you were going when you were at a dead stop.
correct.
So there were 4 times when your daughter could have been injured.
No, I don't believe that she was injured.
No,
at
listen
that
to
time.
me. I don't care what you believe. Your sister-in-law says that the car was hit 4 times.
Not from the rear.
I don't care whether it's from the rear or not.
That's what caused the injury was a rear.
No, I don't know that at all.
Okay.
What I'm saying is there were 4 times when your daughter was in the go-kart was hit.
Right.
Going full speed.
Correct.
That's 4 times opportunity to be injured. Now, would you come up here, please?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So you only got hit once by Mr. Carroll.
Yes,
She says you got hit twice.
I think she's confused.
And later today,
You co-signed on a loan, too?
I co-signed on the car for her. I was being too generous.
You were not a very good judge of character.
No, ma'am.
Neither was your son.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christina May claims her 6-year-old daughter, Tiffany, was injured due to Ronald Matt Carroll's actions on a go-kart track. Christina claims Matt purposely crashed his go-kart into Tiffany's.
Tell me your name.
Tiffany.
Tiffany, do you remember being in the go-kart? Okay. Were you frightened? Had you been in the go-kart before? Do you remember that day when you were in the go-kart?
Sunday.
Were you going really fast?
I kind of fast.
And you weren't frightened? Do you remember the go-kart being hit? How many times was it hit when you were going around the track?
One time.
Just one time? Was the go-kart going fast when you were hit? Did you see who hit your go-kart? Who was that?
Matt.
Who's Matt? That man? And your go-kart was moving when that happened? What happened when you stopped?
When we stopped, he came right behind us and he hit a go-kart. My head went forward and went all the way back.
So that was the second time that Matt hit you. Is that right? And you're sure that Matt hit you twice? Did somebody tell you that Matt hit you twice?
My aunt that went behind and it was him.
Your aunt looked behind and it was him. So your aunt told you it was him. Why don't you have a seat? Now, Miss Way, you didn't tell me that you got hit twice by Mr. Carroll.
We didn't get hit twice.
So you only got hit once by Mr. Carroll.
Yes,
She says you got hit twice by Mr. Carroll.
I think she's confused.
I think you shouldn't have taken her in the go-kart.
I see that.
That's what I think. If you adults want to go in the go-kart, that's your business. But to take these children and place them at risk, They're not having a good time. I guarantee you she was not having a good time.
No, she wasn't. She was in a neck brace for 5 weeks because of this.
Well, she was in the neck brace for 5 weeks because of somebody. I'm not sure who it was, but it was because of somebody. The person that I know is at fault is her.
Well,
Now listen to me very carefully, my dear. The person I know is at fault is her.
I understand that.
Good. He doesn't get any medals either for taking his daughter
I understand
in a
that.
go-kart.
I
However,
understand that.
I don't think that he's an idiot, other than the fact that they're both idiots for putting these children at risk. And I don't think he would do anything purposely to place his daughter at risk by crashing into your go-kart.
His daughter wasn't in the car with him. His son was in the car with him.
Same difference.
What difference does it
I
make? You mean he likes the daughter better than he likes the son?
No.
I'm going to tell you whose fault this was. Hers. If he banged into the car, according to your witness, 4 times she was hit during the course of that race.
She wasn't rear-ended, though. And
Listen to me. You can make any excuse you like. You're not paying attention, madam.
I am paying attention.
You're not paying attention, madam. 4 times she was hit.
I understand.
The first time she was hit, I would have taken my charge back and say, I am not going to put this child at risk because this is not right. She chose not to do that. She chose to get hit once, according to her, not according to your daughter, but once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and go and finish the race.
Right.
So the only thing I'm sure about is that she did the wrong thing by placing this child at risk.
I think that she has done the wrong thing by taking her on the ride, but I just wanted to state what my daughter told me after the scenario of the incident.
Don't tell me what your daughter told you. She just answered my questions. And what your daughter told you is hearsay.
Okay.
What she told me was that she didn't see who hit her, but that her aunt saw who hit her and told her who hit her. That's what she just told me. Now, that may be true. That may not be true. But that's what she told me.
Okay.
So I'm not satisfied, Miss Way. I'm satisfied that your daughter was injured. You say she was in a neck brace for 4 weeks. That's because of her aunt. It may be because of his actions, but I'm not convinced that it's because of his actions. I'm convinced that it's because of her aunt taking her on a ride that she had no business taking her on. So if you want to be angry with somebody, be angry at her. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may stay down.
When she woke up in the morning, she was in a lot of severe pain.
I had no idea then at that time they were that certain it was me.
She had structures from C1 to C5 were damaged
But I was concerned about the kid being hurt, you know. I want to know if she was all right.
and was in a C-collar, rigid C-collar for 5 weeks.
I would never have done this and then not admit to it at all.
No, I don't think that he did it on purpose. I think that it was something that happened, and I just wanted him to take responsibility for what occurred.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Chris versus Morin. Step forward, please.
Mary Chris and her son Jason are suing Jason's ex-fiancée, 23-year-old Angelina Morin, for a loan to buy a car and the return of an engagement ring.
Mr. Chris, this is your mom,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is your former fiancé.
Yes, ma'am.
You want your engagement ring back,
Yes.
and she says she has it, you could have it back. Bird, would you take it from her and give it to him? She doesn't want it, she just didn't want you to come and get it. Good, now you can sit down. It is your claim that you loaned Miss Morin
Yes, ma'am.
money for the down payment on a car for her.
Yes, ma'am.
That is while she was engaged to your son,
It was before they got engaged.
before they got engaged. And she was married at the time that she became engaged to your son. She subsequently reconciled with her husband, and you want the loan back.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Morin says that this was a gift to her. There was never any discussion of the repayment of a loan. It only became a loan when she went back and reconciled with her husband.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date did you advance this money to Ms. Morin for the down
November
payment on a car?
25th.
Let me finish
Oh,
my
I'm
question.
sorry.
On what date did you advance money to Ms. Morin for the car?
On November 25th, 2005.
And on what date did you reconcile with your husband?
Sometimes in the end of January, ma'am. Middle of January, sorry.
Within 60 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Who has the car?
I do, ma'am.
What kind of car do you have?
It's a 2004 Mitsubishi Lancer.
Did you have a car before?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of a car did you have?
A 96 Honda Accord.
Why did you get a new one?
I was just looking to get another car, so it would help take some of the miles off of the other vehicle.
Now, who did you go to look for a car with?
With Jason Chris.
And you weren't engaged at the time.
No, ma'am.
You went to the dealership.
Yes, ma'am.
And you needed more money for a down payment.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you didn't have enough credit to
Yes, ma'am.
get a smaller down payment.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call his mother?
No, ma'am.
Who called his mother?
Jason did.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What do you do for a living, Miss Chris?
I'm a waitress.
Who else lives in your house?
My husband, my daughter, my granddaughter, and my son.
What does your husband do for a living?
He just got a new job. He's drives parts for a car company.
Your daughter lives with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And granddaughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Who supports them?
Their husband. They had sold their home, and they moved in with me until they buy a new home, which is in the process right now.
So, do you live in your own home?
I rent.
And how long have you worked as a waitress?
And the job I'm at now, I've been there for 25 years. I have been a waitress for 40 years.
Now, how much money did your son need when he called you?
Well, there was no talk of down payment on a car or anything. They wanted me to come down, because I know the general manager, to help her see if we can get a better deal for her car. And they told her the best they could do was $2,000 down. She said she didn't have it. They talked it over, asked me. I said, let me talk.
Who asked you?
They both did.
Go ahead.
And they said, let me talk it over with my husband. He said, whatever I decide is fine. I let her know I just paid this card off. I don't owe any money on it. I'll put the $2,000 down, but you have to make the payments. And when you sell your Honda, because she told me she was going to sell the Honda, then you pay the card off, interest and all. She said, that's fine. And in January 8th, she had given me a payment of $100. And that was the last time I seen her or any of my money.
What kind of paperwork do you have there?
Just the registration.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Moore?
I'm a dispatcher, ma'am.
How long have you done that?
For a year.
Who is this?
My husband.
What does he do for a living?
He's a mechanic.
Does he work?
Yes, ma'am.
Full-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
One and one on the way.
The child lives
Yes,
with you?
ma'am.
Good. And you have this car?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did she give you for a down payment?
$2,000, ma'am.
You think she has a lot of money?
No, ma'am.
You paid her $100 back?
No, ma'am.
You paid her nothing back?
No, ma'am.
She says you paid her $100 back.
No, ma'am.
Well, you paid $100 on the card.
No, ma'am.
Didn't. Good.
Judge Judy, I have...
listen to me.
Oh, no. This is concerning the car. They're coming after me for money on the car. She hasn't made the payments. She's late. They're calling me at work.
You co-signed on a loan, too?
I co-signed on the car for her. My name is on the co-signed card. I was being too generous.
Miss Chris, unfortunately, I can't help you with regard to that. We have a limited jurisdiction here. You are not a very good judge of character.
No, ma'am.
Neither was your son. You're suing her for $2,800, which includes the engagement ring, which your son now has.
Yes.
The other $2,000 is for the down payment on the car. The $2,000 that you loaned to her, you're going to get back.
Thank you.
Okay, now, you have your choice. Either I will cut an order, madam, listen to me very carefully, turning the car over to the plaintiff so that she can sell it and get her money back, or you return this money to her. That's your choice.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your choice?
I'll keep the car, ma'am.
I am going to keep the registration on your car until I am satisfied that you've made all the